Connecticut Newsmakers starts now on NBC Connecticut HD, Connecticut's news leader.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Monahan, and thanks so much for joining us on today's edition of Connecticut Newsmakers. We have been having a series of Meet the Candidate sessions on our morning programming, talking with people who are running for the Congress of the United States, the U.S. House, also for the U.S. Senate, and, of course, for governor. One of the Republican candidates seeking his party's nomination for Congress in the 5th Congressional District is Justin Bernier. Justin, thanks for coming in and being with us on our program.
Well, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here. You're somewhat of a newcomer to politics in and of itself, right?
Yeah, that's right, and I think this year that's what people are looking for, a fresh face, someone who's not going to bring a lot of political baggage with them to Washington so they can do the job. You
have a congressman in there now, Chris Murphy, a Democrat who's been in there for a couple of terms. Knocked off Nancy Johnson, a longtime Republican congresswoman from that district. What are the prospects of defeating somebody like Murphy?
Oh, great, because Chris Murphy isn't representing his constituents very well right now. You know, he's voting with Nancy Pelosi 98% of the time, and I don't even agree with my own wife 98% of the time. He ran in 2006 as an independent-minded Democrat, and it just hasn't been the case. We saw that lately with the health care vote.
And that vote is one that some people say that, okay, you know, he voted a certain way and that by November people will have forgotten her, it'll be the law of the land and will not have the kind of an impact that people now, particularly Republicans, think it might have. Do you buy that?
No, I don't. The health care bill is going to be an issue for quite a while, but it's not just the health care bill. It's everything along the way. It's the cap and trade bill, it's the job bill, it's the bailouts. This is just one of the latest bills and spending programs and a long line of programs that people just don't want to see in Congress.
And you take that, let's go back to the health care bill for a bit. Even Republicans agree that there are some elements that are pretty good in that. Do you also agree with that?
Yeah, we definitely need reform. And not everything in the bill is bad. There are some good intentioned parts of it, pre-existing conditions being one of them, taking care of that. But overall, the bill is not what people are asking for. They want no-cost and low-cost solutions that will bring down the price of health care and expand access to all Americans. But what this bill does really is create a trillion-dollar bureaucracy. It adds a whole lot of money onto the national debt. And at the end of the day, it's going to leave us with ration care, I believe, because it's cutting $600 billion from Medicare.
What do you hear about doctors or even people who want to be doctors going into the profession? Will we see fewer and fewer of those?
I think we will. Some of my best supporters are doctors. And what's sad to see is when they tell me that they're telling their children not to get into medicine. That's a really bad sign when the doctors are telling their children that.
You talk about, again, health care, and how about the abortion aspect of that, which has got a lot of people up in arms. It's one of those areas that probably could be negotiated out of the bill at some point down the road. Many people say it's just going to be left as it is. That aspect of health care, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's no doubt about it that public funding for abortions ought not to be in this bill. The vast majority of Americans agree on that, and so I think we really ought to be holding the Congress's feet to the fire on that issue.
Do you find that that when you talk about the president and you talk about Speaker Pelosi and then kind of whittle it down to your district, Chris Murphy, that there are many people who are disenchanted with those people?
Yes, I think they're disenchanted not just with those individuals, but with the institutions as a whole. There's a feeling out there, Tom, that the American public is not being represented in Washington, that what they want to see is common sense reforms, and they've got a feeling in their pit of the stomach there, a real feeling there that the choices that the government's making today are taking us down the wrong track. And that's the path of bigger government, more spending, more borrowing, and more printing. But what I'm hearing people want is the government to get out of the way a little bit so small businesses and free enterprise can do well and people can actually create jobs in the private sector.
Well, that was my next question. When you talk about the whole issue, you know your district. In many towns, Torrington as an example, you have a city there that once flourished with manufacturing jobs. Those have left not only in Torrington and the district, but all over the state and in many parts of the country. So, you know, how do you get those jobs back? What do you do? You
know, we've got some great manufacturers in this district. In Farmington, the town I was raised in, we have Trump which is the largest laser manufacturer in all of North America. Real great high-end, high-tech manufacturing jobs, and that's what we ought to be focusing on. But to create those jobs and to keep the ones here, we're going to have to lower the cost of energy, lower the cost of health insurance, and get taxes down. And the best way to do that is to reduce spending in a reasonable way.
Yeah, and I wonder also, you know, I mean, it's going to need, the state's going to have to work on that, you know, in conjunction with our representatives in Washington. State seems to be having its own problems getting bogged down, so that's another hurdle that you kind of have to overcome, do you not?
Oh, it does. The state's not doing a great job right now in the business department. You know, we have one of the worst business environments in the entire United States. That's a shame because we have some of the best workers in the United States. And that's why I believe that when people are looking for a candidate today to send down to Congress, they're not looking in the same places they used to, the state legislature, the politics scene in general. They're looking for people that have experience, whether it's in military, the private sector, economics. They want that kind of candidate to send down to Washington, someone who's going to help solve problems, not just bring old problems into the situation.
You know, we've been hearing about United Technologies, Pratt & Whitney, of course, being a part of UTC, and the fact that it, you know, one of its big leaders said that anywhere but Connecticut in terms of doing jobs. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, a lot of these jobs have not only gone to other states, but they've gone overseas. And I'm just wondering, maybe the first step is you have to get those jobs, you know, instead of sending so much work out of this country to other nations, that maybe we can keep a lot of those here. Do you have a game plan for that?
Yeah, I sure do. We need to increase exports, and right now we're punishing companies that send products overseas. And like I said, we have to reduce the cost of business in this country. We have the second highest business tax in the entire world right here in the United States. Only Japan is higher. Until we get a better business environment, we're going to be in trouble. And we need to take a look at these trade agreements to make sure that America is not being taken advantage of.
A couple of minutes left on foreign affairs. You talk about, you know, our role, not only in the Middle East, Afghanistan, those nations, but also really around the world, where we're hearing things, you know, could be happening in North Korea and China and so forth. What should our role be?
Well, I'm a veteran of the war in Afghanistan. My belief is that we need to have a strong America, but we also need to have a smart foreign policy. There's a balance there. And I hope right now that our leaders in the White House have the wisdom to sustain those kind of policies.
Sam Caligiuri, a state senator, is probably your main opponent. You go to the convention in May. There's 300 some odd delegates. Who walks away with that nomination from the convention?
We're going to win the convention in May. We're in position to do that right now, and then we're going to go on and beat Chris Murphy in November.
How about a primary? Do you see one coming?
We hope not, because it would reduce the Republicans' chances of winning. After the convention, we'll have to have a conversation with my competitors.
Justin, thanks so much. We'll be seeing you along the campaign trail, I'm sure, and certainly at the convention in May. Appreciate your time. Justin Bernier, one of the Republican candidates seeking his party's nomination for Congress in Connecticut's 5th District. Back with more in a moment.